ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। Okay, so in our last class we discussed till verse number 28 of chapter 2. So today we will start from verse number 29. Okay. आश्चर्यवत् पश्यति कश्चिदेनम् आश्चर्यवद् वदति तथैव चान्यः आश्चर्यवच्चैनमन्यः शृणोति श्रुत्वाप्येनं वेद न चैव कश्चित्. Ashcharyavad, as amazing. Pashyati, sees. Kashchit, someone. Enam, this soul. Ashcharyavad, as amazing. Vadati, speaks of. Tatha, thus. Eva, certainly. Cha, also. Anyaha, another. Ashcharyavad, similarly amazing. Cha, also. Inam, this soul. Anyaha, another. Shrunoti, hears of. Shrutva, having heard. Api, even. Inam, this soul. Veda, knows. Na, never. Cha, and. Eva, certainly. Kashchit, someone. So, translation. Some look on the soul as amazing, some describe him as amazing, and some hear of him as amazing, while others, even after hearing about him, cannot understand him at all. So here Bhagavan says that it is very difficult to imagine how such a tiny particle, which is even smaller than the smallest, can become both so great and so small at the same time. So without the knowledge of the self, our struggle for existence cannot be over. But most of the people are wondered when hear about the soul. After hearing from the greatest authority of wisdom also, most of us are not able to understand the truth of the soul with our gross material concept of things. As we studied the attributes of the soul, how they are inconceivable, so it is beyond the range of our intellect, our mind, intellect and everything. So as Bhagavad Gita is the essence of all Upanishads, we get a very similar verse from Kathopanishad also, 1.2.7 in this connection. श्रवणयापि बहुभिर्यो न लभ्यः शृण्वन्तोऽपि बहवो यं न विद्युः आश्चर्यो वक्ता कुशलोऽस्य लब्धा आश्चर्यस्य ज्ञाता कुशल अनुशिष्टः. So it is almost the same meaning, that after hearing also it is so difficult to understand the concept of soul. That is the same thing here also described in Kathopanishad. As Bhagavan is talking about the soul, so here he is concluding in verse number 30, he is concluding about speaking on the attributes of the soul. So verse number 30. Dehi nityamabad sorry Dehi nityamabadhyoyam dehe sarvasya bharata tasmat sarvani bhutani na tvam shocitumarhasi. Dehi, the owner of the material body, nityam, eternally, avadhyaha, cannot be killed, ayam, this soul, dehe, in the body, sarvasya, of everything, of everyone, bharata, or descendant of Bharata, tasmat, therefore, sarvani, all, bhutani, living entities that are born, na, never, tvam, you, shochitum, to lament, arhasi, deserve. Translation. O descendant of Bharata, he who dwells in the body can never be slain. Therefore, you need not grieve for any living being. Thank you. So, here this specific word Dehi is very important. Dehi means the embodied soul, the dweller in the material body, cannot be slain, as Bhagavan says. So here finally the eternity of the soul is established in this verse. So Bhagavan says there is no reason to grieve for this body. Now here, as here the conclusion is taking place, so we need to know certain things, we need to discuss in our own way. So we see that many people get confused about the essence of the word Atma here in this chapter, whether Jivatma or Paramatma. So in order to remove this confusion, I would just like to discuss a little bit, though I am very insignificant to discuss on this very deep-rooted topic, but still by the grace of Guru Parampara, I am just trying. So here, as we just mentioned, that Dehi, this embodied soul, this means, directly means Jivatma. So, we see, as we have already discussed and we will be discussing in the following chapters also several times, regarding the non-difference of Atma and Paramatma as far as the qualities or the attributes are concerned, or we can say in its highest essence of, or in its highest essence. So we see in this scripture Bhagavad Gita, Paramatma Shri Krishna is the charioteer of the Jivatma Arjuna. And he is directing how to reach the target, which is he himself, ultimately. So as we can understand that Jivatma and Paramatma are same in qualities, in quality, so we see that all the attributes are described in these last few verses are both for Paramatma and Jivatma. So by understanding this, Jivatma gets communion with the Paramatma by the help of perfect intelligence. Now, as we discussed in the analogy of two birds stated in Mundaka and Shvetashvetara Upanishad, so if this captivated, enjoying bird representing the Jivatma by chance turns its face to the witnessing free bird representing the Paramatma and understands its glories, immediately it becomes free, as it is said in these two Upanishads. So it means that if we turn our face to the Paramatma, who is eternally present in our heart as with the Atma, in different bodies, starting from the smallest to the biggest, we can immediately be free from the clutches of material modes. Because then we understand clearly that if there are qualities, these are the qualities of the Atma, if these are the qualities of the Atma, then, and if we are that, if our nature is this, then we cannot remain forgetful of our true position anymore. And here also, Atma means, as Jivatma, we know it means Anu Atma, or the individual soul, it is called. And Paramatma is also called as Vibhu Atma. Vibhu means the greatest, or the super soul, or the supreme soul. In various names we can call. So in Kathopanishad we see 1.2.20, it is said, Anor aniyam mahato mahiyan atmasya jantor nihito guhayam tam akratuhu pashyati vita shoko dhatuhu prasadan mahimanam atmanaha. So both the Paramatma and Jivatma are situated on the same tree of the body, within the same heart of the living being. And only one who has become free from the material desires and lamentations can understand the glories of the soul by the grace of the Lord. So we see that consciousness or knowledge, that is chit or jnanam, is the symptom of the soul. It is the very symptom of the soul. So Supreme Vibhu or Param Atma is always in its actual position, whereas the consciousness or knowledge of individual Anu Atma is veiled as it identifies itself with the subtle body and automatically becomes forgetful. So in this chapter, the discussion is particularly on that Jivatma. As we see, Sri Krishna is the fountainhead of the super soul, which will be revealed in the following chapters. And Arjuna is the atomic soul forgetful of his nature. Therefore, he requires enlightenment from Sri Krishna. And one more word is there that can create little confusion, that is sarvagataha. the all-pervasiveness of the soul. As Anu-Atma, or the individual soul, or Jivatma, in verse number 17, it is mentioned as Sarvam Idam Tatam, means pervades the entire body. Any kind of body where the Atma is present. So it pervades the entire body. And verse number 24, the Sarvagata indicates to the fact that life is there even in fire and sun and in other planets. But the body constitutionally differs in various planets. These two aspects are there. But Vibhu Atma or Paramatma or Super Soul, all pervasiveness of the Supreme Soul means he is present in the entire creation, in the whole creation, present in every molecule. To understand this, we can take reference from Śrimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 85, verse 24. Atma hi ekah swayam jyotir nityah anyah nirgunah gunai atma srishtaihi tat kruteshu bhuteshu bahudha iyate. So the Supreme Soul or Paramatma is indeed one, self-luminous, eternal, transcendental or distinct from the material body and devoid of material qualities. This devoid of material qualities or attributes is very important. But through the agency of the modes he has created, the Supreme Truth manifests as many among the expansions of these modes. It is mentioned in Śrimad Bhagavatam, and we see in chapter 10, verse number 42, Bhagavad Gita itself, Bhagavan says that Athava bahunaitena kim jnatena tavarjuna vishtabhya aham idam krishnam ekamshena sthito jagat. So it means with a single fragment of myself, I pervade and support this entire universe. How? As Paramatma. Which means the entire world is resting in him, in the Super Soul feature of Bhagavan. So by realizing this, we should try to regain the superior energy which we truly are, and by serving our true friend, that is the Paramatma or Bhagavan. So with this verse, Bhagavan concludes the instructions on Atma Tattva, and from the next verse, that is verse number 31 to verse number 38, he is speaking about Swadharma, that is the religious duties. There is no huge content in these verses, so we can today recite and try to understand just the meanings, because there is nothing to discuss in detail. Okay, so we will chant from verse 31 to 38. स्वधर्मं नापि चावेक्ष्य न विकम्पितुमर्हसि धर्म्यद्धियुद्धश्रेयोऽन्यत् क्षत्रियस्य न विद्यते. Swadharmam, one's own religious principles. Api, also. Cha, indeed. Avikshya, considering. Na, never. Vikampitum, to hesitate. Arhasi, you deserve. Dharmyat, for religious principles. He indeed yuddhat than fighting, shreyaha better engagement, anyat any other, kshatriyasya of the kshatriya, na does not, vidyate exist. Translation. Considering your specific duty as a kshatriya, you should know that there is no better engagement for you than fighting on religious principles, and so there is no need for hesitation. Verse 32. यदृच्छया चोपपन्नं स्वर्गद्वारमपावृतं सुखिनः क्षत्रियः पार्थ लभन्ते युद्धमिदृशम्. Yadrichaya, by its own accord. Cha, also. Upapannam, arrived at. Swarga, of the heavenly planets. Dwaram, door. Apavritam, wide open. Sukhinaha, very happy. Kshatriyaha, the members of the royal order. Partha, O son of Pratha. Labhante, do achieve. Yuddham, war. Idrisham, like this. Translation. O Partha, happy are the Kshatriyas to whom such fighting opportunities come unsought, opening for them the doors of the heavenly planets. So here this, you can keep just a little note that as we said, the Swadharma means the religious duties, we have understood, and Kshatriya, the actual meaning of the word is who gives protection from wound or hurt. Trayate Kshatra. He is Kshatriya. And the inner meaning we see, every sadhaka or spiritual seeker is Kshatriya, as he is fighting or protecting against the wounds of material world. Which means that self-realization is conquering that battle of life. Okay. So we see in verse number 31, Bhagavan says, fighting on religious principles is the specific duty of a Kshatriya, and religious violence could be a need of time. This is the take home from verse number 31, and from verse number 32. Here Bhagavan says that is the gist is an opportunity and gateway to the heavens. Verse number 33 now. अथ चेत्त्वामिमं धर्म्यं सङ्ग्रामं न करिष्यसि. अथ चेत्त्वमिमं धर्म्यं सङ्ग्रामं न करिष्यसि. ततः स्वधर्मं कीर्तिं च हित्वा पापम् अवाप्स्यसि. Atha, therefore, chet, if, tvam, you, imam, this, dharmyam, as a religious duty, sangramam, fighting, na, do not, karishyasi, perform, tataha, then, swadharmam, your religious duty, kirtim, reputation, cha, also, hitva, losing, papam, sinful reaction, avapsyasi, will gain. Translation. If, however, you do not perform your religious duty of fighting, then you will certainly incur sins for neglecting your duties and thus lose your reputation as a fighter. So non-performance of religious duties incurs sin. That Bhagavan saying here, and losing the reputation as a great warrior. As we know, Arjuna was a great warrior who had received benedictions from Lord Shiva, from Indradeva, from his teacher Dronacharya, and all the eminent personalities. So he will lose reputation as a great warrior if he refuses to fight the battle. So text 34. अकीर्तिं चापि भूतानि कथयिष्यन्ति ते व्ययां सम्भावितस्य चाकीर्तिर्मरणादतिरिच्यते. Once more. अकीर्तिं चापि भूतानि कथयिष्यन्ति ते व्ययां सम्भावितस्य चाकीर्तिर्मरणादतिरिच्यते. Akirtim, infamy. Cha, also. Api, over and above. Bhutani, all people. Kathayishyanti, will speak. Te, of you. Avyayam, forever. Sambhavitasya, for a respectable man. Cha, also. Akirtihi, ill fame. Maranat, than death. Atirichyate, becomes more. Translation. People will always speak of your infamy, and for a respectable person, dishonor is worse than death. So infamy is worse than death for a respectable person. That Bhagavan says here in this verse. Verse number 35. Bhayadranaduparatam mamsyante tvam maharatah yesham cha tvam bahumato bhutva yasyasi laghavam. Bhayat, out of fear. Ranat, from the battlefield. Uparatam, seized. Mamsyante, they will consider. Tvam, you. Maharathah, the great generals. Yesham, for whom. Cha, also. Tvam, you. Bahumataha, in great estimation. Bhutva, having been. Yasyasi, you will go. Laghavam, decreased in value. Translation. The great generals who have highly esteemed your name and fame will think that you have left the battlefield out of fear only, and thus they will consider you insignificant. Verse number 36. Avacyavadamscha bahun vadishyanti tavahitah nindantastava samarthyam tato dukkhataram nukim. Avachya, unkind. Vadan, fabricated words. Cha, also. Bahun, many. Vadishyanti, will say. Tava, your. Hitaha, enemies. Nindantaha, while vilifying. Tava, your. Samarthyam, ability. Tataha, than that. Dukkhataram, more painful. Nu, of course. Kim, what is there? Translation. Your enemies will describe you in many unkind words and scorn your ability. What could be more painful for you? So here Bhagavan strongly establishes the fact that you will only receive unkind fabricated words and vilification it will be very, very painful for you. So it's much better to fight the battle. So as a person tries to convince a little child, here Bhagavan is taking that path to convince Arjuna in these particular verses, not before and after, but here only. Okay, verse number 37. हतो वा प्राप्स्यसि स्वर्गं जित्वा वा भोक्ष्यसे महिं तस्मादुत्तिष्ठ कौन्तेय युद्धाय कृतनिश्चयः. Hatah, being killed, va, either, prapsyasi, you gain, swargam, the heavenly kingdom, jitva, by conquering, va, or bhokshyase, you enjoy, mahim, the world, tasmat, therefore, uttishtha, get up, Kaunteya, O son of Kunti, yuddhaya, to fight, krita, determined, nishchayaha, in certainty. Translation. O son of Kunti, either you will be killed on the battlefield or attain the heavenly planets, or you will conquer and enjoy the earthly kingdom. Therefore, get up with determination and fight. So Bhagavan directly says, be killed in the battle, no problem, or attain heavenly planets. And attain heavenly planets, or else just get this entire kingdom, rule over this entire world. Both options are completely okay for you, so choose any one of these two. Actually, any one of these two can happen, and it is nobody can predict, but your duty is to fight this battle only. And in verse number 38 we see Bhagavan is concluding as just fight for the sake of fighting. That is, duties for the sake of duties. No considerations of happiness, distress, gain, loss, victory, defeat, attachment, aversion, anything. Here in verse number 38 Bhagavan will say, Sukha dukhe same kritva labha labhau jaya jayau tato yuddhaya yujyasva naivam papam avapsyasi. Sukha, happiness, dukhe, and distress, same in equanimity, kritva, doing so, labha alabhau, both profit and loss, jaya ajayau, both victory and defeat, tataha, thereafter, yuddhaya, for the sake of fighting, yujyasva, engage, fight, na, never, evam, in this way, papam, sinful reaction, avapsyasi, you will gain. Translation. Do thou fight for the sake of fighting without considering happiness and distress, loss or gain, victory or defeat, and by so doing you shall never incur sin. So here Bhagavan strongly says, he is concluding in verse number 38. What he spoke from verse number 31, he is concluding here in verse number 38, that fight the battle with the spirit of fighting for the sake of fighting. And here Bhagavan is giving stress on this particular condition of equanimity. That is, be the same in the dualities, as we discussed earlier also while speaking about tolerance. Bhagavan there also said how to tolerate the dualities of life. We discussed. So here Bhagavan is saying that equanimity is the essence of karma yoga. He is indicating, then he will speak in details in the next few verses. From verse number 39 we will discuss in our next class. Okay. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namya Krishna Namaha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.